feeling like I'm academics. Can't ride no
A couple other things that I seen popping off. We'll get to the Rich Homie Quan thing in a second. Shout out to the boy Diddy. The boy Diddy is moving around. I don't know what necessarily his plans are, but actually, I'm gonna be honest with you. To me, this was an interesting development. Now, if you guys don't know, Diddy appeared in New York, and in the latest video,
First of all,
he was seen. Diddy spotted in Harlem, New York, and he was seen doing a video with a guy. I don't know if it was willingly, but he did a video with this guy, and this guy, apparently this was in Harlem. This guy promised that he would put hands on anybody who was playing with Diddy's name. Listen to this.
First of all, it's all Harlem love. Y'all already know. It's not even saying it in front of him. You know I punches people's teeth out playing about him. This is family. This is love. It is all love. And he's brushing those waves. This is booby smooth groundwork. Harlem, you already know what it is.
Love ain't nothing but love. Yeah.
Now,
Harlem shit.
First of all, it's all Harlem.
Now, let me tell you what I think about this. Chat. I personally believe that we are in the endgame. We're in the endgame with the Diddy situation. I think in the next couple of weeks, we're gonna see some really interesting developments. Let me try to explain. So for what we got told recently is that the grand jury in Diddy's case has issued some subpoenas. Now, I think we're all ghetto lawyers in here. If you've been watching me, you've watched me cover mad cases. We read through mad court documents. I think we're caught up in a lot of this legal term to know how to navigate. But if you're new or you just don't know, what a grand jury does, a grand jury is a way to indict a person on felony charges. Usually most felony charges are charges that need to be indicted, even though it could go another route where it's done on a complaint. But if it goes there, there's usually a preliminary hearing where usually a judge, and I'm gonna explain this for a reason. So there's two ways people get indicted, right? So grand jury and a complaint, usually by some law enforcement officer that is co-signed by the DA. The DA brings it, and at that point, if it doesn't go through a grand jury, they have what's called a preliminary hearing. Okay? Like, for example, I'm going to give you, this is kind of how the court systems works overall. I've been trying to give you a little ghetto crash courses that you could keep up, because sometimes, you know, at our stream, we try to get into a lot of stuff. ASAP Rocky, in his shooting case, there's no grand jury. There was a preliminary hearing, okay? So just to kind of, I think Megan Cuniff actually had it. Let me see if I could. Megan Cuniff, or whatever her name is. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So this is a preliminary hearing. So remember, there's two ways to indict somebody. You're gonna do it via a complaint. Now, here's the thing. If you do it through a complaint, the DA takes it and says, okay, this is good. We're going to go to the judge. They get a warrant. They arrest you. They have a preliminary hearing, and a preliminary hearing is where the judge is going to look at the evidence, or not evidence necessarily, but probable cause, and say, for a charge of murder, or a charge of attempted murder, or a charge of aggravated assault, at least for ASAP Rocky, they're going to look at the evidence. So what do? They look at video. And by the way, we should get to the ASAP Rocky situation too. So this is like a mini hearing. So you have people who are investigators, so detectives like testify. They showcase the video. I don't know if you guys ever seen the Rocky stuff, they have like 5 different videos of Rocky. So they play all that, right? These are videos of the shooting, right? So, right? And basically at the end of it, the judge announced that, hey, Rocky, I find that there's enough probable cause for this to move on and for you guys to go to a trial. Okay? That's a preliminary hearing. Now, what's happening with Diddy is not that. It's what's called a grand jury proceeding to see if they're going to go to a trial. Now, again, I'll tell you what most lawyers will tell you, and I know I got lawyers in here, they'll agree. A lot of them will prefer what's called a preliminary hearing, which is this, what Rocky went through. Why? You are allowed to be in there, you're a lawyer too, and you get to rebut certain things, and you get to at least put up a defense or a possible defense that the judge could hear. In a grand jury hearing, it's usually secret, and the person being accused doesn't know, doesn't get a chance to participate, and the theory is you could indict a ham sandwich through a grand jury because they're hearing one side of the conversation. And by the way, shameless plug or whatever, but you know, even all the bullshit they talk about me, they could indict a ham sandwich to a grand jury. They went through a whole thing. I wasn't there. I had no lawyers there. If there was anything there, they would have been like, bring this nigga in. It's not. That's what Diddy's going through now. With if you'll notice here, A$AP Rocky's in court. A$AP Rocky's in court. You see him right here. A$AP Rocky's in court. So that's a preliminary hearing. What Diddy's going through is a grand jury hearing. Now, the grand jury is like an interesting thing, and it's different via state and which state, and also interesting via federal, which this is federal. Now, I'm going to tell you why I'm explaining this. I'm explaining this because the grand jury that's convening in this Diddy situation is in New York. Okay? Diddy, for the first time, is seen in New York. We heard about 2 weeks ago or a week ago that the grand jury issued a new subpoena and so let me tell you how the grand jury works. Right? Again, I could play some videos that you get to understand, but I'm going to give you the nigga layman's term shit. Grand jury usually is more than 12 people, sometimes up to 24, 23. Yeah, they usually have an odd number. And unlike a criminal case, when it goes to a verdict where you need beyond a reasonable doubt, you need everybody to agree. So if it's 12 jurors, you need all 12 to agree. In a grand jury situation, for most places, they'll go with 23 jurors, and they just need half or half plus one. So for 23, they need 12. They need 12 people to say there is probable cause. Now, granted, this is not if the person's guilty. It's just they have probable cause to go to the next step, which is a trial. So it's a probable cause hearing. Now, usually what happens is the defendant or the possible suspect, right, is not involved. Their lawyers is not involved, even though maybe their lawyers are communicating maybe with the DA, right? Because obviously the DA and the detectives or the agents they're investigating. Now, and just pay attention. I'm gonna get somewhere. What usually happens is, okay, say 23 people, they're all sitting up and they're watching this case, or they're watching what prosecutors are basically showing them as what they have as a case against Diddy. So what are they doing? They might go, remember they raided his house already. They're going to go in front of those people and be like, hey, we found A, B, C, and D in his house. We have this tape. This tape consists of this. We have this text message that kind of puts him in a situation that makes it seem or would put him at, would make it seem like he's guilty of doing A, B, C, and D. And usually in grand jury settings, the grand jury also at times is allowed, which you never see in a regular case, a grand jury sometimes could ask a witness. So the grand jury sometimes could raise their hand and be like, hey, well, if Diddy was having all these freak offs, why did you keep going? Like you never hear a juror talk in a real court, because at that point they're a neutral arbiter. But the grand jury situation is a investigative setting for probable cause. So the grand jury sometimes could ask questions. They could also, and that's what you'll hear, there's a grand jury subpoena, right? There's a grand jury subpoena for a hotel that relates to Diddy staying with her, which is 50's ex, which is Daphne Joy. Now, what that means is that the grand jury, they're working hard here. By the way, allegedly, they've been convened for close to 60 days, if not more. So they're looking at all of the raids, like all the relevant details that the DA has given them from the raids, from text messages, witnesses, and they're trying to still corroborate more to see if whatever charges, we don't know what charges, because again, this is still secret. And yes, the grand jury, from that proceeding, they might have either questions or more info that needs to be ironed out before they say there's probable cause, that they issued a new subpoena related to a hotel in Florida. They did this last week. It says, according to new legal docs obtained by TMZ, federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York got a subpoena requiring that a fancy hotel cough up documents and other evidence related to Diddy. Diddy and his ex, Daphne Joy, are both named in a subpoena. That's very fucking important. Now, based on that, let's go Diddy, Daphne Joy. Now, again, this is 50 Cent's ex. This is 50 Cent's ex. But let's see if we could give me 1 second. Let me turn my ad blocker off. Now, give me 1 second. Now, what I'm looking for is, when did Diddy start dealing with Daphne Joy? Right? When? This is important to know. The reason why is, if part of this indictment includes Daphne Joy, by the way, it doesn't mean that she's necessarily a victim, but it could have been she was there while Diddy was having freak offs. Oh, the subpoena says from 2008. I don't know if he knew her in 2008, but maybe he did. But it doesn't, the mere fact that she's part of the subpoena, she might not be a victim, or she just might be somebody who is a unnamed or unindicted co-conspirator at the end of it, which I think Carisha is going to be in something like this too. Yo, we just want to check your phones. We want to check your security cameras, and if you were booking rooms for Diddy, we want to subpoena those too, because we think it'll have evidence. No one thinks she's going to get charged with anything. But what this kind of tells us is that some of what the grand jury is investigating in terms of criminal activity, which we're all thinking about these freak offs or whatever, 50 Cent's baby mama was exposed to some of it because she's listed in the subpoena, right? So, okay, cool. They said the subpoena calls for the hotel. So apparently this is a hotel that maybe she was booking for Diddy at times, or maybe her name was under, or or whatever, or maybe her and Diddy's name, whatever. And it's saying Diddy and Daphne and other associates of Bad Boys Entertainment from 2008 continuing. Okay. All right. Okay. The prosecutor also asked for computer IP address, logins of individuals, and other copies of identification and vehicle information. What's more, feds inquired about surveillance footage, which, by the way, I don't know how long usually even fancy hotels keep footages for, especially if they were never subpoenaed before. Now, the whole Cassie footage, we're assuming that that footage was just put aside after Diddy specifically tried to pay for it. Not necessarily they just had 8 years of footage or whatever amount. Yeah, 8 years of footage just sitting in a hard drive somewhere, right? Anyway, so the new subpoena was only issued a couple weeks ago. It looks like the authorities are still hard at work. As reported, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Okay, the federal grand jury was convened, blah, blah, blah. Cool. All right. Now, this is what I believe. And this is just my speculation. Again, I'm not no legal expert, but I do think that Diddy moving around is very calculated. I believe that. Now, here's the thing. Diddy has the best lawyers man could find. Diddy's also allegedly been really cooperative. Doesn't really affect if he's going to be indicted or not, but it probably speeds up the process and probably allows him to give a favorable look to the prosecutors who are probably seeing shit that they're trying to have to. If somebody has to paint a picture of you and you at least give them some type of, help, it might be a favorable thing for you. Anyway, here's the point. Diddy being in New York, what this tells me, or what this makes me feel, is that a really unlikely thing might be happening. What? Perhaps, and this happens at times. This happens at times, even though rare. As I said, grand juries are usually secret, and the person being investigated usually never knows. Obviously, Diddy knows, but they're usually not involved in the grand jury process. It is possible that with so much shit being thrown at Diddy, and probably Diddy having some of the best lawyers possible, that he's worked with the prosecutors and probably to the point where he might be able to testify at his own grand jury proceeding, which is usually never happening, right? They usually don't hear from the victim, or not victim, the potential suspect. But Diddy being in New York, the grand jury convening out of the Southern District of New York, him randomly being here, he don't really got much business still going on. Like, everything is on autopilot, being taken care of by his chief of staff and this and third. I have to think he's only doing legal shit. I'm thinking that he might be in New York to potentially come in to the grand jury proceeding. Again, this is a 1 out of 1,000 situation because they usually don't bring in the person they're investigating. But there's so much shit they're trying to throw at the wall. Perhaps he could answer some of the questions that the grand jury has about what the fuck is going on. You get what I'm saying? So if I'm right about that, which again, it would be a rare situation that would even happen. But I do think Diddy's lawyers and all of this is happening. It's possible that this might happen. And I could imagine Diddy's probably interviewed with the feds already, or, at least been asked to interview, or, I don't necessarily know about a proffer at this point because, they're clear. He's clearly the target. But if I'm right about him possibly being involved in the grand jury proceeding, which is usually not, you got to say it's not popular, or it's not common. This would say the grand jury is at its last leg. And this is probably the final part of, okay, we done heard all the things he did. We still have some questions. We're still going over some stuff. You guys are bringing more information all the time. We're still putting it together to make up our decision. But we're still not convinced. Let's see if he gets on that stand or he testifies, or his lawyer comes in, they could make some sense of it that could potentially make us say, oh, yeah, he's a freaky ass nigga, but he's not a sexual criminal, or he's not a sex trafficker, or he's not a drug dealer, or he's not some racketeering killer, or a guy ordering murders. You get what I'm saying? So that's what I'm thinking. And I took a while to get to this point, but I had to explain a bunch of things to you. I think Diddy's in New York to potentially affect or be involved in his grand jury situation. And I believe, if I am correct, I think in the next 30 days, we're going to hear something. So mark it from today. If Diddy's in New York, which I would imagine maybe this week or the next coming week, his lawyers are going to be trying to do whatever to affect this grand jury proceeding, whether it's offer Diddy up as somebody who's down to explain some shit or whatever. And the decision on, are they going to indict him, would most likely come down within the next 30 days. Now, I could be wrong, because, again, they're still issuing subpoenas, or they issued a subpoena last week. Maybe this is just part of, maybe they got mad other subpoenas to issue. We don't know. But I think, again, I'm not no expert, but I think we're at the point 30 days out. 30 days out, if you ask me. I personally believe that Diddy has been prepared for some indictment, and I think he's probably being told by his counsel that what most people think he's going to be indicted on, it won't be that. But it's no way that the feds did this extensive operation. When they're doing all these raids and all these subpoenas, you're giving out man hours in terms of overtime for people having to scour through footage, scour through emails, search this, search that. This is a lot of time that there's it would be safe to say we might be into the millions with this investigation, right? With the manpower, resources, extra additional resources to decrypt and parse through all the information, look under every stone. I don't think they want to come back with, oh, he cool, he's straight. So even if they don't come back with the, oh yeah, he was sex trafficking women, which I think a lot of people believe that they're gonna come back with that. It's just too broad, especially if they go under the Racketeering Act. They expect to at least for him to get some charges, maybe taxes, maybe, I don't know, money laundering, something, you know what I mean? Two things I could think of: wire fraud, racketeering, sex trafficking, weapons possession, drug possession. Those are the four. Those are the big four. But I am at the point to think that it is 30 days out, and we will see. We will see. I could be wrong. And by the way, I think if Diddy's thinking best case scenario, he's waiting for the grand jury to say, hey, we, the grand jury that convened from blah, blah, in the case of blah, 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 have found that there is no true bill in this situation, and there is no probable cause that this could go to any type of trial. And if that's the case, they'll alert Diddy's lawyers and trust and believe. Maybe he still stays low, but he'll be playing the comeback then, because he'll be coming back with his fucking middle fingers in the air saying, the grand jury saying nothing there, nigga, so all y'all niggas suck a dick. But I think people think he's going to get something that's going to get found, right? So we'll see. Anyway. I know somebody will be like, yo, Ak, you got all that from just seeing that nigga in New York? Yeah. All the court shit's happening in New York. He's getting rid of his LA place. He's been in Miami for a while. And then now He's in New York. Trust and believe. Yeah, trust and believe. Okay. Really quickly.